KwaZulu-Natal businesses have been hard hit by COVID-19 restrictions, followed by July riots and now the floods. The latest round of damage to infrastructure estimated to run into multi-billions of rand. For more on the challenges facing, in particular, the province's economy, we're joined by the Black Business Council CEO, Kganki Matabane. Mr. Matabane, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Firstly, just reflections of the Black Business Council on what we've seen unfold in KZN over the last week.
Good evening, Kathy and the viewers. Firstly, the Black Business Council would like to join the nation in praying for KZN and also offering our condolences and support. We also applaud our past president, Dr. Motsepe, for donating 30 million rands towards this, and we're calling for other members, big and small, to also make their own contribution. As the Black Business Council, we have availed our engineers. We spoke to the municipality at eThekwini, and we've offered the civil engineers that we have and other professionals. But we hope that the funds will get utilized for the sole purpose of relief. We don't want a repeat of what happened with the PPEs, which is the personal protective equipment that happened during COVID. We did warn government then that let's make sure that the businesses that are going to be involved in the rebuilding are proper businesses, they're properly registered, they qualify. It's not going to be friends businesses that are registered this week and the next week they're given opportunities. So it's important that we were accountable. We take accountability, we were responsible, and we deal with corruption even before it starts.
It's one of the unfortunate things about this crisis, right, that while so much needs to be spoken about in terms of the rebuilding of KZN and what needs to go into that and how it needs to look like, a significant amount of time has to be spent on doing something that one would think would really be obvious, that is telling government about the required levels of transparency, speaking against, corruption and any attempts to try and loot these funds in a time of crisis.
Yeah, it's very, very unfortunate, but we cannot ignore history. It's important that we learn from the recent history that happened 2 years ago. And we can't then ignore the possibilities that may happen. And also what we're calling on again is that when the rebuilding happens, it's important that the small businesses, the black businesses, businesses owned by women and businesses owned by people living with disabilities are also prioritized instead of prioritizing big companies. Because there's a tendency that when there's an emergency like this, you have two challenges that are excluding black business and small business. One, the big established companies that are traditionally white-owned will be given all the opportunities. Secondly, then you get some politicians, some dodgy politicians, bringing their friends to the table who come and most of the time do nothing, deliver nothing. But they're given opportunities instead of giving proper businesses that can be able to create jobs, because we still need to create jobs. A lot of small businesses, for example, in KZN, they've suffered. You've got, for example, when you don't have road infrastructure and other infrastructure being damaged, there are so many small businesses that are affected. The hawkers, the garage owners, the shop owners, farmers, boat operators, they are affected. It's important that they should be prioritized when the recovery takes place.
There's a lot to be said about how long it's likely going to take business in KZN to be able to recover from what we're seeing, especially in eThekwini, because it really seems to be the main center point where the biggest damage of the floods has taken place. As business right now, what are the kind of conversations that you are having, and how long is it going to take to rebuild the economy there?
Yeah, it's extremely unfortunate what has happened. And remember, most of these businesses are still trying to recover from COVID. Some of them are still trying to recover from July last year. Some of them are still closed. Like if you look at the people who are operating in malls, some of the malls are still closed. So people have been trying to recover, and a disaster like this happens. So it's going to take even longer for recovery to take place. So what conversations we're having is that we need to continue to support. We were speaking to government, also especially the small business department, to bring more relief in terms of funding, in terms of blended funding, in terms of grants, so that these small businesses especially can recover much quicker than anticipated. Because if people have to recover by themselves, it's likely to take longer, because if any insurance is involved, it's going to take probably, because they need to investigate first, it may take longer, more than a year for those companies to recover and reopen. But the country just can't afford any losses of jobs, any further losses of jobs. We need to create as many jobs as possible so that we can grow our economy.
Let's talk about the role of business here in the efforts to help this economy, the economy of KZN, recover. Because, again, government has been unequivocal with the fact that it does not have enough money to put into all that needs to be rebuilt. So what is business bringing to the table?
What we are bringing, we've called our members to donate funds. Those funds, as I said, they must be looked after so that they don't disappear. We've spoken to the municipality already. We've asked our professionals, specifically engineers, to volunteer their time to go to KZN and assist, and other professionals that are needed, so that the recovery can take much quicker. So we are making our own contribution in terms of money and in terms of skills.
Ultimately, when it comes to the long-term projections over the risk of doing business in KZN, those are conversations that are going to need to be had. Do you think that it will change the number of businesses that choose to run their operations out of KZN? And, you know, the other conversation is, of course, about things like infrastructure that has now been damaged, where you have the trucking sector told, to suspend operations, at least until they're able to rebuild one of the main roads there. Do you see those having long-term effects on KZN?
Yes, I think that they'll have a long-term but temporary type of an effect, because remember the ports are that side, so there may not be any alternative port as we speak. So what's going to happen is just the delivery dates are going to be affected, because remember the goods come through the ocean, gets into the trucks, and then get delivered. So if there's a time lag and a period where some of the services are affected, it means some of the deliveries that were expected in South Africa and other countries in the continent are likely to be affected. So I think in the short term, it will be to try and reroute some of this into Mozambique and others. But remember, Durban has got the biggest port, so it's going to be difficult for some of the goods to be rerouted. So I don't think it will have a long-lasting, necessarily long-term effect, but I think it will be a short term, and then once the infrastructure is being rebuilt, the economy will go back to normal.
All right, let's leave it there for tonight. Black Business Council CEO Kganki Matabane.